You're not gonna believe it, but these 8 rich NBA stars got foreclosed on. And that's due to huge mortgage payments and bad financial decisions. Many NBA players lack financial security in their lives. No matter how much they earn, their bad spending habits lead to serious consequences, such as losing their homes or filing for bankruptcy. So let's find out the NBA players who were unlucky with money. Number 8. Vin Baker. First up, we have Vin Baker, the legendary basketball player. The moment he stepped onto the court, everyone knew that he was going to become a star player. Luckily, the Milwaukee Bucks picked him for the NBA draft in 1993, and he even made it to the All-Star team 4 times in a row. Everything was turning out to be good for him until 5 years later, the NBA star started gaining weight at an alarming rate. In a short time, he'd put on 300 pounds, and it affected his body and status as a player. This was just the beginning of the troubles in the coming years. Vin Baker did lose some of his weight, but everyone got to know about the reality he was hiding. He was an alcoholic.
I was trapped in the alcohol. Like, it was a point where I had to use it physically, and then ultimately my talent went away.
And this cost him his brilliant career. In 2008, the NBA star was again in the headlines. This time it was because of the foreclosure of his Durham, Connecticut home. Vin Baker had an impressive 9,300 square foot Georgian brick colonial mansion sprawling over a 12-acre parcel of land. It had some of the most lavish features, like 7 bedrooms, 6.5 bathrooms, a basketball court, a guest house, a pool, and even a 2-lane bowling alley. But why did the NBA player get foreclosed on? Well, Vin had missed the mortgage payments, and the bank had filed a complaint against him, so the court ordered the mansion to be sold through auction. When his place was up for auction, the only bidder for it was the bank. Before the whole legal episode, Vin had listed his home on Realtor.com for a long time, with a price tag of $2.9 million. Unfortunately, the place could not find a serious buyer. The U.S. bank eventually bought the Durham mansion for around $2.5 million after the foreclosure. But you know that this wasn't the only setback Vin Baker faced in 2008? In fact, the NBA star had to face 2 foreclosures that year. His restaurant, Vinny's Saybrook Fish House, was also shut down. Vin Baker's foreclosure story is a warning to players who spend their money on things they can't afford to keep. And coming up next on our list is a player whose one wrong decision affected his whole future. Number 7. Latrell Sprewell. Latrell Sprewell's basketball career started with the Warriors, and boy, he was on fire. It was only his rookie season, and he started in 69 out of 77 games. Plus, he had a scoring average of 15.4 points per game. Latrell soon made his mark as one of the best players, and he kept working hard to be on top of his game. It all paid off. From 1994 to 1997, he was the main scorer for his team, and also earned a spot on the Western Conference All-Star team. This was a huge deal. But despite his popularity, his teammates tried to stay out of his way as he was known to be a hothead. Back in 1997, Latrell Sprewell did something unforgettable. He choked his coach, PJ Carlesimo. That got him a 68-game suspension. But after that incident, he still had a great career and made nearly $100 million. But his empire soon came crashing down, and it all started with a single incident. Latrell was offered a $30 million contract extension from the Minnesota Timberwolves. However, the star turned it down because he thought it wasn't enough to support his family. Spoiler alert, that wasn't one of his wise decisions. The Warriors player was unemployed by 2005, and after that, things started to go downhill. Latrell had spent money on loads of expensive things like his yacht, Milwaukee's Best, and homes in Wisconsin and New York. He was unemployed and had big bills to pay, which proved to be a tough combination to fight off. And from 2007 onwards, his finances started getting worse. He had to sell his yacht, Milwaukee's Best, at an auction as he had a massive $1.3 million debt on it. The NBA star had bought it for around $1.5 million, but he couldn't get the right price on it. Well, tough times call for tough measures, and honestly, Latrell didn't have many options. But this proved to be good for the yacht's new owner, as he got it for only $856,000. That was less than what it was worth, but it helped Luttrell settle some debts. But things didn't end there. The Citizens Bank, aka RBS Citizens NA, filed for foreclosure in Milwaukee County for the NBA player's home. Luttrell had purchased the home for $405,000 in River Hills, Milwaukee back in 1994. According to the bank's papers, he owed them $295,138 in unpaid mortgage, plus interest. He had forgotten to pay the $2,593 per month for his mortgage from 2007 to 2008. And by 2009, both of his mansions were foreclosed. The player had a tough time keeping up with those mortgage payments and gave up in the end. Rejecting the $30 million contract cost Luttrell Sprewell a lot of things, but sometimes even your fortune can't save you from the toughest moments in life. Our next NBA player is living proof of that. Number 6. Julius Erving. Julius Erving, aka Dr. J, was known to be one of basketball's first rock stars. He was the LeBron James of his time. And in the 1970s, he introduced some of the cool moves like showboating, leaping, and above the rim slam dunking. Sure, it's quite common in basketball today, but Julius was the trendsetter. He's an absolute legend, even more than 25 years after his retirement. But the fame, the glitz, and glamour were of no use when Julius was going through a financial setback. It all started in 2010. Dr. J lost his mansion in St. George, Utah. He had bought the 6,500 square foot, 5-bedroom home in 2006. He had even designed his basketball court with Philadelphia 76ers colors and logo. But he got to enjoy his mansion for only 4 years and eventually moved out in 2010. During his stay at the Utah mansion, Julius put it up for sale with a price tag of $2 million, but there were no interested buyers. And his financial situation did not allow him to pay the mortgage on the house, so he had to say goodbye to his dream home as it was foreclosed. Just like Julius, the next NBA player on our list had a massive fortune. He was a multi-millionaire, but none of that helped him to get through the financial struggle. Number 5. Antoine Walker. Antoine Walker had a brilliant 15-year career in the NBA. He played with some of the best teams like the Boston Celtics, Dallas Mavericks, Atlanta Hawks, Miami Heat, and many more. The NBA star made over $110 million during this time. But in 2010, everyone was shocked to hear that he had filed for bankruptcy. How did this happen to the multi-millionaire? Well, Antoine's assets were drowning under the pressure of his debts by $9 million. His journey toward financial roadblocks began with his gambling problem. It was also the reason behind his arrest in 2009. The police had put him behind bars because he had written $800,000 in bad checks to 3 Las Vegas casinos. Now, you're probably wondering what items were listed on Antoine's bankruptcy file. Let's first of all talk about the real estate that was foreclosed on. It included a massive 7,000 square foot home in Boca Raton, Florida. The 5-bedroom place had a price tag of $2 million, but the mortgage on it was 2 times that. If we do the math, it means that Antoine had a whopping $4 million mortgage hanging over his head. His home was listed on the real estate marketplace for a long time, but it failed to attract potential buyers. But as soon as it went into foreclosure, things changed. The mansion's value dropped to $1.8 million and was sold. Next on the bankruptcy file was his most prized possession, a lavish and luxurious mansion covering a 7,111 square foot area in Miami. The place had 5 bedrooms, 5.5 bathrooms, a lap pool, a zen garden, covered outdoor patios, a mother-in-law suite, maid's quarters, and not 1, but 2 gated entrances. Antoine got his hand on this massive mansion in 2005 for $3.1 million. But this place also met the same fate as his last one. Antoine Walker got on the wrong path when he started gambling. Next up, we have an NBA player who wasn't new to the whole foreclosure situation. Number 4. Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson, aka The Answer, rocked the basketball court for 14 seasons as a shooting guard and point guard. He was one of the NBA's star athletes. Allen had won numerous awards. Some of his notable ones were the NBA Rookie of the Year award in '97 and the All-Star Game MVP award in 2001 and 2005. In 2008, ESPN named him the 5th greatest shooting guard in NBA history. Plus, he had the 6th highest regular season scoring average and the 2nd best playoffs average, right after the legendary Michael Jordan. Allen was indeed one of the NBA's top players, but a few years later, his life turned upside down. In 2013, Allen Iverson lost the ownership of his luxurious Atlanta mansion, which was worth a staggering $4.5 million. The basketball player had some pending mortgage payments, which were estimated to be around $1.2 million. He didn't pay those, and in the end, he got foreclosed on. Allen did his best to stop the auction, but he failed to save his dream home. And on top of that, the mansion's value was reduced to half. The bank bought it for only $2.5 million. But you'll be surprised to know that this wasn't the first time that Allen has faced a foreclosure. Allen had bought the mansion when he was playing for the Denver Nuggets in 2011. It was an impressive 6,848 square foot place with 6 bedrooms and 9 bathrooms in Cherry Hills, Colorado. But this property was taken away too because he owed $2,572,914 on the mortgage. And just 1 year before that, his 6-bedroom home in Villanova, Pennsylvania went through the exact same situation. Allen got the place when he played for the Philadelphia 76ers. The NBA star's finances were not looking good, so he decided to sell it. He was in no luck, as the mansion had no serious buyers for 3 whole years. But when he dropped the price from $6.3 million, things were settled. The lucky buyer got the Villanova, Pennsylvania home for $2.6 million in 2010. Allen Iverson's back-to-back foreclosures show how irresponsible he was towards his finances. And next on the list is an NBA player who had a heartbreaking downfall. Number 3. Robert Swift. We all remember Robert Swift as the tall NBA player who played for the Seattle Supersonics for 4 seasons. He considered himself lucky when he became a millionaire at the age of 18. But by the time he was 27, he was listed in the ranks of sports stars who wasted their fortune. Robert Swift had a fortune of $20 million during his NBA days, and it all came crashing down. Let's break down the situation to see what went wrong. The basketball player purchased a house in the upmarket Seattle suburb of Sammamish for $1.35 million in 2006. And it wasn't just any house, it was a spectacular place with 4 beds, 4.5 bathrooms, and an area of 6,240 square feet. Robert had a $168,000 mortgage on this $1.4 million home. And the worst thing was that he didn't make a single payment for 2 years. This left the authorities with no option but to foreclose his home at the start of 2013. But that was just the start of a bigger drama. After the foreclosure, he wasn't ready to leave the place, and he even exceeded the deadline to move out. The new owners had enough of this and took things to court and filed a summons. So the court gave Robert a week to respond, pack up his stuff, and leave. Otherwise, they'd have to kick him out. The NBA star did leave the place, but what was left of the place was shocking. The entire home was a mess. There were beer cans and food items lying around, dog poop all over the porch, and the walls had holes in them. And there were guns and bullets lying around in the basement. It seemed like the player had a makeshift shooting range there. The drama that unfolded with Robert Swift's foreclosure was sad to witness. The next story on our list is of an NBA player whose business skills fell short and cost him his home. Number 2. Christian Laettner. Christian Laettner had a good run in the NBA. He played for teams like the Timberwolves, Hawks, Pistons, Mavericks, Wizards, and Heat. But the highlight of his career was his time at Duke University. Back then, he received 2 national titles and even the Final Four Most Outstanding Player award in the 1990s. Plus, he was the ACC Player of the Year and NCAA Player of the Year in 1992. He was a true champ. Christian even had the honor of being added to the College Basketball Hall of Fame in 2010. but his life after that was no longer a smooth ride. The NBA player had made over $60 million from basketball and brand deals, but despite that, he was in the worst financial situation. In 2015, he made it to the headlines for all the wrong reasons. The media was buzzing with the news about the foreclosure of his home. Christian had bought the 5,061 square foot Florida home in 2003 for $3.675 million. And the main reasons were some bad business decisions and failed investments. He even owed more than $14 million to 5 people because of his unsuccessful ventures. A few days later, another piece of news started circulating that Christian had $14.05 million in debt and was suggested to file for bankruptcy. A source revealed that he was part of a big project in downtown Durham that was sold for a whopping $187 million. Christian gave at least $10 million to his real estate firm, Blue Devils Ventures, hoping to get rid of the massive debt. Christian Leitner's businesses gave him more loss than profit. Coming up next on our list is an NBA player who violated the rules, which cost him his career, and from then on, nothing seemed to work for him. Number 1. O.J. Mayo. O.J. Mayo was a big deal in the NBA, as he was the number 3 overall pick in the 2008 draft. He played for some of the top teams like the Memphis Grizzlies, Dallas Mavericks, and Milwaukee Bucks. All of this helped him to make a fortune of over $45 million in 8 seasons in the league. But the star athlete played his last game from 2015 to 2016. In 2016, the NBA made a shocking claim about him. Mayo was disqualified from the league for violating the anti-drug rules, and after that, his problems began. In 2019, the basketball player was warned that he would lose his $1.8 million Milwaukee house. According to the court documents, Mayo hadn't paid a single penny since April 2019 and owed more than $1.1 million on the mortgage. The bank had enough of this and foreclosed the house that Mayo bought with a $1.26 million loan. They even tried to send him a notice, but he was out of the country. A source reached out to his trainer, who revealed that he was playing in China. These stories tell us that it's important to use your wealth wisely and invest in properties you can hold on to. But apart from the foreclosure, there are many NBA players who got a little too excited with their fortune and ended up spending it all. Watch our next video to see how some NBA players went broke in the dumbest ways.